Welcome to the shop. Today I'm going to make a sunrise or a sunburst, whichever you want to call it, pattern ring. I'm going to make a pretty small ring, about 7 inches in diameter is what I'm shooting for. Because of that, the segments are going to be pretty small. I'd like to make it 16, but they're really small ends, so I'm going to make it 12 segments per ring. And when I make a sunrise ring, I always put a divider between the segments. I like the looks of that a whole lot better, so that makes them even a little bit smaller. So when I make a small one, I use 5 rays. Similar to this. These rays are way too big. I made this, but these are too big. But there's 5 rays. Now if I was making bigger segments, I'd use 7 rays. If you use 5 rays, that means each piece of wood is 30 degrees. 30 degrees between them. Now for 30 degrees, I can use my triangle to measure them out. Where did I put my triangle? It's here somewhere. If I was going to make them 7 rays, that would be 22.5 degrees between each one. And if I was going to do that, what I would do is go to the internet, download a divided circle like this, cut it in half, and then I would take some kids glue that you get from the dollar store like this and glue it on a piece of wood and use that as guides to cut it. But with 5, I can use my 30-60 triangle. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that. To do this, I'm using maple blocks 2 inches across, 1 3/4 inches high. Now you want to make sure you keep the grain pattern, you keep it running the same direction in the segment as much as you can. And for the rays, I'm using red heart. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick, pretty thin. Now first thing I'm going to do is to mark cut lines on this. I got a center mark on it. Got a center mark on it right here. So first thing I'm going to do is mark it straight up and down the center. Then I'm going to put a 60-degree mark each way. And then a 30-degree mark each way. When I get down, I have marks like this to cut with. Now, in order to keep the grain pattern right on it, what I'm going to do is put a number on each piece, so I'll know where they go. So I got them all numbered, so when I glue them back, I'll know exactly where they go. That'll keep the pattern the same. So the thing I have to do now is to cut them. So I'm going to go with the bandsaw and cut it. I got it cut into 6 pieces, and I'm going to make 5 rays. So what I'm going to do now is sand one side flat on 5 pieces. I'm going to sand, I got the sides marked here that I'm going to sand on each piece. Then I'm going to glue rays on them sanded sides. So I'm going to go ahead, use the disc sander to sand them flat. And I'm going to use the 12 segment push stick, which just happens to be 30 degrees and work out just right. So I'm going to go ahead and sand those down on one side. I've measured and cut 5 red heart strips, and I'm going to glue them on. I numbered each one. So I'm going to glue them on to the sanded sides of 5 pieces. Like this. And I'm going to leave plenty down here so when I sand the next side, I can sand it to fit. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a rub joint and glue these on. A little bit of glue. Don't need much. Then use a rub joint, rub it back and forth. Position it where you want it and go to the next one. It's been 15 minutes. So now I'm going to sand down the other side on all 6. And when I do, when I sand this side down, I'll also sand down the end of the ray so that when I put them together they'll actually fit. Otherwise the ends would get in the way. So I'm going to go ahead and sand down the second side on all 6 pieces. I got the second side sanded down. Now when I sand the second side down, the ray gets tapered on the end, so I can actually fit them all together now and glue them up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to line them back up their original positions and glue them all back together. So I'm going to go ahead and just glue them all up. Glue one. I've got 11 of them. The rays glued on one side of the pieces and the other side sanded. Now you'll notice, if I can hold this together and show you, I don't know, that only 5 of them's got rays on them. And the 6th one, of course, is sanded. Now when I line them up to glue them, what I'm going to do is watch the white points and try and get them aligned rather than the edges. And that makes sure that the rays come out right. If I get the points off, you can see it throws the rays off. That's quite exaggerated, but you can see what it would do. So when I glue them, I'll watch the points and try and get them lined up. These have been lined up and glued back together. So now I'm going to take it over to sander and just clean up the face and the sides some. I got it cleaned up a little bit. Now when I drill it, I'm going to have to drill it right in the spot where all these come together, or pretty close thereof. So it's ready for drilling now, but I ain't going to drill it until I get all the rest of them ready. I got 11 of them glued up and try to keep in all the rays the straight and the same. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take them to the sander, smooth them off and clean them up before the next step. So I'm going to clean them all up a little bit. I got these all cleaned up now and the bottom's flattened a little bit. What I'm going to do now is take them, two of them, put a piece of scrap about 0.1 inch thick between them, clamp them together, no glue, just clamp them together like this. Make sure the rays are lined up. After I get them clamped together, then I'm going to take a Forstner bit and drill through them. That's for the sun piece. So I got two clamped up now. Got the rays lined up. I got the center marked. So I'm going to go ahead and just drill it out. Now the size I'm using is 3/4 of an inch. Of course you have to look and see what you feel is the right size for them and drill them out to that size. But I'm going to go with 3/4 of an inch for these. I've got these all cut now. You can see I've got just about a half round cut in them. What I'm going to do now is cut some plugs for them. I'm going to use this Steel X Kenyon plug cutter. This cuts straight-sided plugs. Of course, if you don't have one, you can always turn some plugs. But this will cut some nice straight-sided plugs for it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some plugs. I'm only going to cut 6 of them. I've got 12 of these pieces cut. And I've got 6 plugs cut. And what I'm going to do now is glue the plugs in and clamp them like that, so that the grain runs this direction, same as the grain in this wood. So I'm just going to put them in and clamp them. After I get that done, I'm going to use a bandsaw to cut them into 2 pieces. It's been 15 minutes now after I glued them, so I'm going to cut them in half on the bandsaw, and I'm going to flatten up the bottoms again on all of them. They've all been smoothed on the bottom. So now what I've got to do is make them all the same height. Now I'm going to use a disc sander. You could use a table saw or whatever, miter saw. But I'm going to use a disc sander. I'm going to use a push stick with an adjustable stop. I'm going to set it just a little over 1.5 inches. And I'm going to sand them all down to it so they're all exactly the same height. I got them all cut the same height. So the bottom and the top are all finished, ready to make a ring. I still got to cut the sides. I'm using 12 segment rings, so I got to cut the sides at 15 degrees. I want a 7-inch ring, which requires 1.8756 width segments, but I want to put a 0.2-inch spacer between them, so that leaves 1.6756. And what I'm going to do now is draw a line down the center on the back side. Got a line drawn right down the center. No, don't know if you can see it or not, but I got a line drawn right down the center. I'm going to cut from the center to one side, which would be 0.8378. I'm just going to head to cut them to 0.84. I'm going to do is mark 1 where I want it cut. Then I'm going to put it on the sled and line it up where the blade will cut it on that line. And I'm going to put them mark on the sled where the center line is. And from then on, I'm just going to use the center line to cut the plugs. So once I get the first one cut and the center line marked, I'll just set them on the center line and cut them off. I got all 12 of them cut. They seem to fit pretty good. I ain't dry clamped them. But I'm not going to because I need spacers between them. These pattern, to me, just don't look right without a spacer between them. So I can make spacers from any contrasting material. I could probably use sapelli or Peruvian walnut, African blackwood. I think what I'm going to do is use wenge. I got a piece of wenge here I can cut spacers out of. It's just wide enough so it'll do the job. So I'm just going to rip some pieces off and bring them down to 0.2 inches and make some spacers for it. Then I've got the wenge cut. It's 0.2 inches thick. I cut them a little bit long, and then I took the same stop block on my disc sander and sanded them down so that they'd be exactly the same height as the segments. So when I clamp them down, everything will be exactly the same height. So what I'm going to do now is put these in and dry clamp it and inspect it for the tightness of the joints, how everything fits. I got it dry clamped, holding it to the light. All the joints look good. They're all tight. If I didn't have a tight joint, I would adjust the angle on one piece on the disc sander. But these are all tight. Now I've got to pick the top clamp to go on it. I've got many different sizes. I've still got bigger ones down below. Too small, too small. This one here is about the right one to go on top. Put these away. And then I've got to get the right bolt length for it, because this one here is pretty high, not like the rest of them. I think this is the right bolt. I've still got more. Got many size bolts for this. So we'll see. Do this before I start gluing. You don't want to play with these after you got it all glued up. Oh yeah, that'll work good. So that's ready to go. A clean piece of wax paper under it. Put me a clean piece on the top. Keep glue from getting on the top clamp. And I'm going to go ahead and glue it up. If I don't knock everything down first. Now if you want to know about this clamp I'm using, something I come up with, and I made a video on how to build one. It's a lot better than band clamps. I'm going to just go ahead and glue this thing up. And what I'm going to do is pick out two pieces. I'm going to take a segment, put glue on both sides. Don't really need to put glue on both pieces. Some people think you do, but you don't. Then move this over. Yeah. Make sure the cord's in the center all the way around. Tighten her down some. Make sure all the spacers are correctly positioned. You do have a tendency to push in sometimes. Wipe a little glue off the top. Get them good and flat. Now then, put the top clamp on it. Clamp it on down now. That ought to be tight enough. Give it a quick inspection. Yeah, it's pretty flat. Pretty flat. Everything looks right. Gonna let it hang up and dry for 15 minutes. In these, the grain of this pattern all runs the same direction, including the red half circles. Now, of course, the rays don't, but they're thin enough so it shouldn't be a problem. But when making segments, you want to keep the grain running the same direction as much as possible. I've seen people make patterns where they glue sticks together and then cut off pieces when they end up with end grain, which is not really a good idea, segmented turning. So the grain here runs this direction, and of course the rings above it and below it will also run the same direction. That's what you want to have. Well, there it is out of the clamps. Now the top and the bottom are flat enough so that all I'm going to have to do is put it in cold gels and hold my sanding stick up against it. It won't be too hard at all to prepare it for gluing on. I'm not going to do that until I'm ready to use it. And of course, when I use it, I will put a thin ring of Wenge below it and above it, the same thickness as the spacers to give it the good look. And if I was making bigger ones, like I said, I would use more rays. I just used 5 in these, but I would go ahead and use maybe 7 rays in bigger ones. So the way I do it is not the only way to make them. I've made them different ways, but this way I find is the easiest way for me that still gets good results. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you watch some of my other videos and come back and watch the next one. And I thank you for watching, and if you got any questions, I'm going to put my email address along the bottom, so you can feel free to email me if you have any questions at all. Thank you.